and welcome. Tonight, Ecowas says Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger's membership of the community will end in January 2025. Troops of 6th Brigade, Nigerian Army, Sector 3, Operation Wellstroke, rescued 3 kidnapped victims in Yoro, local government area of Taraba State. Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, inaugurates national task force to tackle illegal oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, and other sharp practices. And 2 Russian oil tankers with 29 crew members on board heavily damaged in the Black Sea, causing an oil spill. We begin tonight with a resolution from the 66th Ecowas Summit held in Abuja. The Economic Community of West African States, Ecowas, has announced that the membership of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger will officially end on January the 29th, 2025. And this is part of resolutions reached at the end of the 66th Ordinary Session of the Ecowas Commission Authority of Heads of State and Government in Abuja. In a communique delivered by Ecowas Commission President Omar Toure, the organization acknowledges the decision of the 3 countries to exit the community. However, a 6-month transition period will be granted from January the 29th through to July the 29th, during which ongoing negotiations with the ECOWAS mediation team, led by the presidents of Senegal and Togo, will continue. ECOWAS noted that if the 3 Sahel countries choose to rejoin the community during this transition period, then they will be readmitted. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has asked ECOWAS leaders to emulate Ghana's democratic practice following a successful presidential and parliamentary election in the country. We'll bring you more on that in the course of the bulletin. But let's turn our attention to security now. Troops of the Nigerian Army's 6th Brigade, operating under Operation Golden Peace and Sector 3, Operation Wellstroke, recently conducted a series of operations in Taraba State, resulting in the recovery of weapons, the rescue of 3 kidnapped victims, and the foiling of a robbery operation. The statement issued by the Brigade Acting Assistant Public Relations Officer, Captain Oni Olubodunde, also detailed that the troops intercepted an ongoing robbery near Kasuwa in Takum local government while patrolling the Takum-Katsina-Ala road. Their swift action led to the arrest of a suspect, Emmanuel Thomas, who was found in possession of a locally fabricated pistol and 2 rounds of 9mm ammunition. In a related operation on December the 13th, the troops responded to a distress call from Manzala village in Yoro local government council regarding bandit activities. Meanwhile, the federal government is reiterating its commitment to ensuring the emergence of a world-class police force that is inclusive, intelligence-led, technology-driven, and community-based. Speaking in Abuja at the unveiling of a newly divisional police headquarters in Katakwe district, funded by the Nigeria Police Trust Fund, the Minister of Police Affairs, Mr. Ibrahim Gaidam, says the federal government is in placing a police force that is alive to the constitutional responsibility and the commitment to implementing the ongoing comprehensive police reforms. The minister, who was represented by the acting permanent secretary of the ministry, Mr. Yusuf Abubakar, also explains that the police reform and the provision of critical infrastructure is aimed at revolutionizing the country's police landscape.
This is a commendable effort by the Nigerian Police Trust Fund in addressing the challenges of the security in Buhari Area Council, thereby providing conducive environment for both citizens and the businesses located within the vicinity. The presence of this world-class facility, when completed in this prime location, will protect the citizens' community every day for their daily activities from the danger of kidnapping, one chance robbery, as well as other related crimes affecting the city. The Nigerian Police Force, which is a leading internal security agency in this country, is encouraged to continue to promote synergy with citizens in this location and other security agencies in the city to uphold the responsibility of enforcing laws and prosecuting offenders in the federal capital city.
We head to Enugu State now, where Governor Peter Mbah has assured residents of the state that his government will do all it takes to ensure security of lives and property. The governor made this commitment in a town hall meeting with citizens of the state, which took place at the Old Government Lodge in Enugu. According to him, the state government has installed AI-enabled CCTV cameras across the state in a proactive move to track down criminal elements.
It's the last town hall meeting for the year, organized by the Peter Mbah administration to elicit feedback from the people on how they fared so far under his leadership and chart a way forward. The governor begins by outlining strategies deployed to ensure security in the state and the gains achieved so far.
We have installed a technology that keeps our neighbors under round-the-clock surveillance and established a distress response squad that swiftly responds when there are any threats to security.
He then yields the floor to field questions from the audience, and he responds as they come in. A representative of Women Group wonders if the state security strategies can be extended beyond the city to cover villages and even suburbs.
I want to ask, please, will this also go ahead to cover the suburbs? What I mean by the suburbs are areas outside the state, like the local government areas and other areas around. For example, 9 miles extending to the villages.
We're going to begin to get our people to treat their land assets as an economic value. Right, we're going to recognize their ownership of those lands, and we're going to issue the right title documents with respect to those land.
Land grabbing and intimidation by some estate developers and investors who claim they have government backing is another thorny issue raised at the meeting.
Land disputes have been rife in Enugu. Communities often feel left out of issues and matters surrounding their land. Sometimes they feel bullied and intimidated by investors and prospective land buyers. What is your government going to do to resolve these issues in the utility and resource areas?
The DRS and the command and control is our effort to boost and to reinforce the safety we already have in the state. It enables us to have a line of sight of not just what happens in the state, in the city, but we're basically ring-fencing our entire state. We're able to identify targets, track them, capture them, and ensure that they are brought to justice.
Beyond security, the Enugu State Governor also highlighted his key achievement in health, education, tourism, amongst others. He is seeking the constant support of residents to enable his government build the Enugu State everyone will be proud to have.
The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, says it is taking steps to support the federal government's efforts to improve oil production and ensure that petroleum products are accessible to consumers in the eastern and the Midwestern zones of the association. The association announced its plans at the inauguration of the National Task Force for the zones, saddled with tackling illegal oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, and other sharp practices.
As government embarks on ramping up efforts to boost daily oil production by reviving public refineries, IPMAN on its part intends to complement these efforts by launching a surveillance and monitoring team for the eastern and midwestern zones at its retreat in Rivers State.
And the department hearing to this affidavit that I am conversant with the requirements of a person nominated to occupy the appointed position.
Speaking during the inauguration, the national president of IPMAN, Abubakar Shatima, represented by the national chairman of the Monitoring and Surveillance Committee, Issa Gusso, outlines tackling illegal oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, petroleum product adulteration, and diversion as part of the responsibilities of the task force.
It is on this background and understanding that we are organizing this retreat for coordinators and principal officers from each state in the East and Midwest zones. The aim of the retreat is to orient and strategize members of the committee for effective elimination of sharp practices in the oil and gas downstream sector.
The River State chairman of IPMAN charges the task force to leave no stone unturned in addressing the sharp practices in the industry, advising that the team must operate exclusively from the IPMAN Secretariat to avoid any compromise.
None of them should take anything personal to themselves. If you work within the ambits and also towards the realization of the federal government's increase in product production.
In a show of solidarity, the River State Commissioner of Police, Bala Mustafa, represented by Officer Biachi Monday, pledges the police's support for the task force.
But I am mandated to tell you that police is strongly and seriously behind you. Police will give you all the support you need to carry out your duty.
The IPMAN members also visit the traditional rulers of the host community to seek royal support. IPMAN is confident that these measures will go a long way towards helping to ensure that the oil sector operates transparently, efficiently, and for the benefit of all.
To Cross River State now, where the government is monitoring several road projects across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. And this is coming as the state continues to prioritize the improvement of its road network with the aim of enhancing connectivity, promoting economic growth, and ensuring the safety of all. According to the state government, it is implementing approaches to maximize resources, ensuring that every investment in road infrastructure aligns with the state broader development objective.
Cross River State, known for its natural beauty and rich cultural heritage, has long struggled with outdated and deteriorating road infrastructure across its 3 senatorial districts. Both motorists and commuters had in the past suffered a great deal plying this route. Located in the southern senatorial district of the state, as vehicular movements were almost impossible. Few months into office, Governor Otu embarked on an inspection to have first-hand knowledge of the people's immediate need, and upon seeing this ditch, Governor Otu assured residents of the community of immediate intervention.
This place was a culvert before, it didn't work, so we want to replace it with a proper bridge so that we can have a thoroughfare on the ground where water and other things can pass freely. But the problem they have with the location is everything here is quite tight, so they cannot cast the concrete here. So they're doing the concrete administrative works.
Months later, the road is ready for use, and the Commissioner for Works assures of its durability and efforts of government to reconstruct drainages.
As you can see, the work is so solid. Like I said in the other streets, when I was analyzing about the nature of the drain that we saw, and that this is still likened to that same meal that is cooked by for your home consumption. So we cook this by ourselves, we constructed it for ourselves, and that is why it is this solid.
Same gesture is replicated in the northern senatorial district, where a major road connecting those from the northern part of Nigeria to Calabar, Akwa Ibom, and other eastern parts of the country is being repaired. This is what the Undog Junction now looks like few months after Governor Otu's assurance to fix the road. Residents expressed excitement over the intervention by Governor Otu's administration.
If I come out from the house like this, you see myself, I will be so tired, dusty, and the rest. So that is how it is. But for now, we are enjoying ourselves.
He also called for the continued support of all Cross Riverians and residents of the Otu-led administration, which he affirmed is committed to fulfilling its policies for the betterment of the community.
In part 2, after the break, Faith CIO and C-Suite Awards held in Lagos, bringing together top drivers of digital information technology from the African continent. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, reaching you from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. ECOWAS says Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger's membership of the community will end in January 2025. Troops of 6th Brigade Nigerian Army Sector 3 Operation Wellstroke rescued 3 kidnapped victims in Yoro local government area of Taraba State. Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, inaugurates National Task Force to tackle illegal oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, and other sharp practices. And 2 Russian oil tankers with 29 crew members on board has been heavily damaged in the Black Sea, causing an oil spill. Organizers of the CIO and C-Suite Awards has held its 5th ceremony, bringing together chief technology officers, chief information officers, and other drivers of digital information technology of various organizations. The event, which took place in Lagos, celebrates technological evolution as the world shifts towards a digital economy, driving the continent's need for agile innovation.
The 5th edition of the annual CIO and C-Suite Awards serves to honor those who have significantly contributed to digital innovations and forged partnerships that catalyze transformation in our rapidly changing global landscape. The CIO and C-Suite Awards ceremony is spearheaded by the Executive Leadership Council, which oversees its operations and focuses on implementing its strategic objectives. Abiola Lasende is the convener of the event.
It's a story of the recognition of excellence within the IT ecosystem. It started as a small dream. I like to refer to it as a baby that was conceived in the womb. And then it took a whole village to nurture that baby into what it is today. It started as a first of its kind in Nigeria in 2020, during the thick of the pandemic, when I had a compelling vision to work with other critical stakeholders to bring our technology leaders into the spotlight.
Awards categories include real estate, education, fintech, other financial institutions, telecommunications, technological services, and media. Channels Television's very own Olalekun Adeyemi wins the media category.
We've done a lot of work at Channels Media Group, tremendous work, for the growth of the digital sector, and it shows everywhere, where you find Channels Television. So to be the winner this year, it's something remarkable. It shows that our contribution is indeed recognized.
Established in the year 2020, the CIO and C-Suite Awards Africa has become a pivotal platform that connects thought leaders, technology innovators, and digital transformation experts from 11 African countries.
As we told you earlier, we'll bring you more now on the resolution reached from the 66th ECOWAS summit held in Abuja. Well, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, announced that the membership of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger will officially end on January the 29th, 2025. And this was part of that resolution reached at the end of the session. The communique delivered by ECOWAS Commission President Umar Toure, the organization acknowledges the decision of the 3 countries to exit the community. Our correspondent Empress Simon reports.
The 66th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government begins with a group photograph of the leaders of member states led by its chair, President Bola Tinubu, upon their arrival. Shortly after, they go into the hall for the meeting. All member states are present except, of course, the junta-led heads of government of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, who are conspicuously absent. In his statement, President of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Toure, commends the leadership of President Tinubu in the bloc and for ensuring Nigeria keeps up to its financial obligation to ECOWAS.
Nigeria paid 85 billion naira and 54 million US dollars, representing 100% of the 2023 levy and the levy of 2024 up to July 2024.
President Nana Akufo-Addo is making his last appearance at the meeting as the 13th president of Ghana, following the recently held elections in Ghana, which produced a new president in the waiting. His party's gesture in conceding defeat to the opposition is commended by President Tinubu, who enjoins other member states to take a cue.
Your Excellency, President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, thank you for being who you are. A sincerely committed Democrat who has been a shining example. I therefore invite all of us to give him a standing ovation and more applause.
President Tinubu then calls for more cooperation among Ecowas members.
As leaders, we are fully aware that security is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Equally, enhancing the living standard of our people is not an aspiration, but an obligation.
After the speeches, members of the media are excused as the meeting goes into a closed-door session for the consideration of the report by the Ecowas Mediation Mission led by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye of Senegal and Faure Gnassingbé of Togo, among other reports. Hours later, the meeting opens with the president of the Ecowas Commission presenting the communique, which highlights some of the major decisions taken regarding Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger's membership of Ecowas.
These countries will officially cease to be members of Ecowas from 29 January 2025. The authority decides to set the period from 29 January 2025 to 29 July 2025 as a transitional period and to keep ECOWAS doors open to the three countries during the transition period.
The meeting comes to a close with the final remarks by the chair.
I call on all member states to redouble their efforts in ensuring that decision reached here translates into tangible benefits for our citizens.
For more clarifications, the president of the Ecowas Commission briefs journalists afterwards on the status of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger.
The 29th of January 2025 is the official date, but then the effective date of withdrawal is 29th of July 2025.
Ecowas has allayed the fears of possible security threats should the three countries finally exit the community, as it assures of fostering cordial relationship with them, especially in the area of trans-border security, to ensure stability in the region. From the banquet hall of the State House, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
If all goes well, President Bola Tinubu will on Tuesday, December the 17th, 2024, lay before a joint session of the National Assembly to present the 2025 budget proposal. Well, tonight, Babajide Ogunsanwo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is here to share more insight ahead of the official presentation of the 2025 budget of the federal government of Nigeria. Babajide, it's good to have you on the news at 10. Thank you for joining us. In less than 48 hours, that's when we're looking, and that's when we expect the president to present this budget, that's the 2025 budget, to members of the National Assembly. But at this moment, what do we know about this budget?
Tuesday will be a big day. On Tuesday, we'll get a lot of details about this budget. But at the moment, there are several things we could talk about, but there are three things that come out to me as the top three. The first is, number one, this is a 48 trillion naira budget compared to the 28 trillion naira budget that the National Assembly initially approved for 2024. However,
though it looks like we've moved from a 28 trillion naira to a 48 trillion naira, in naira terms, it looks like a significant leap. However, if we compare it to, if we were to equate it in dollar terms, what was the dollar in this year when the budget was approved, and looking at what the dollar rate is right now, dollar terms, it's a smaller budget. In naira terms, it's a bigger budget. That's the first point. Now, the second point is we are still highly exposed to what will happen in the oil market. In simple terms, the federal government's revenue, the oil revenue relative to the combined revenue that the government hopes to earn next year, more than 56% of the federal government's revenue is still from oil. In simple terms, if anything happens to our oil production or the oil forecast in terms of crude oil production, crude oil value, locally and globally, it will affect the budget. The third, and perhaps for me the most important thing, is that the growth of the budget does not mean the economy will grow. And that is our history. Budget growth has no correlation on the positive growth on the economy. Let's take a look at what our historical budgets have been and what exactly has happened with reference to economic growth. From 2015, we moved from a 4.4 trillion naira budget to 6 trillion naira budget. The economy declined by 2%. To 7.4 trillion naira budget, only a growth of 1%. 9 trillion naira budget, only a growth of 2%. So what we've seen is a history that budgets have been growing exponentially. However, real economic growth has not been growing at the rate at which our nominal budget has been growing. In simple terms, our budget is ineffective. The growth of this budget has not related, and we haven't seen a correlation with how the budget grows and how the economy grows. And though that's exactly what is in front of us, budget has been growing. 2015, 10 years ago, the budget was 4.5 trillion naira. You get me right? 10 years ago, 2015, we had a 4.5 trillion naira budget. Now we are looking at a 47 trillion naira budget. That's a multiplication of 10 times what it was a decade earlier. However, we haven't seen such growth in the economy.
Well, last year, the budget was nicknamed Budget of Renewed Hope. Any ideas what this name, the new budget, will be?
Before we start speculating on what this name will be, perhaps the most important budget the president needs to look at, beyond looking at the 2025 budget that he wants to present on Tuesday, is the 2025 budget of the common man. And why do I say that the 2025 budget of the common man is the most important budget? It's because whatever happens to the budget of the common man is really what will happen, will have a larger influence on the economy. The private household structure in Nigeria's economy today accounts for 60% of the size of the economy. And so if we can't fix the income and the quality of expenditure of the common man, we will not be able to fix the economy despite what the government does, because individuals, families have more influence on how Nigeria grows than the government. Going back to what you said, Anne, the names. We've seen a lot of names. Let's take a look at the history of the last 10 names we've called the budget, because I think we are running out of names to call this budget. We've seen budgets such as the 2016 budget, budget of change, followed by a budget of recovery and growth. We've seen a budget of consolidation. We've seen all these names. However, despite these names, 2022 was the year we said the budget of economic growth and sustainability. However, the economy only grew by 3%. 2023 budget of fiscal consolidation and transition, the economy only grew by 3%. 2024 budget of renewed hope, the economy only grew by 3%. So in summary, we're looking at whatever we call this budget, the most important budget that the president now needs to focus on is the budget of the common man.
But quickly, Babajide, just in a few seconds, how optimistic are you about this assumption driving this budget? I mean, how much impact will it have on the average man, as you said?
Compared to our running rates, this budget is ambitious. However, the bad news is it is not clear on how we want to achieve this ambitious budget. Let's take a look at the numbers. And when I say the running rate, let's look at how are we doing this year and what sort of numbers is the 2025 budget talking about. This year, January to August, we spent expenditure by the federal government 16.9 trillion naira. That's an average of 2.1 trillion naira per month this year. However, for 2025, the government is saying that it wants to increase our current expenditure running rate by 88% to an approximate value of 4 trillion naira per month. Look at our net revenue. The government earned 12.7 trillion naira on an average this year. On an average monthly, 1.6 trillion naira. The government is saying it wants to grow from 1.6 trillion naira revenue to an average of 2.9 trillion naira per day revenue. In summary, the most important budget is the budget of the common man.
All right. Thank you very much. Babajide Ogunson, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst. We hope for better days ahead. Thanks for your time. The pleasure is all mine. Still ahead on the news at 10, 2 Russian oil tankers wrecked in the Black Sea with streaks of oil visible in the water. We'll bring you the details. Please stay with us. Welcome back. HIV and AIDS may not be the public scare it was in the first decade of its appearance, but according to the WHO statistics, globally, about 1.3 million people acquired a new HIV infection in the year 2023. Right here in Nigeria, approximately 2 million people are living with the condition, and as elsewhere, ignorance and stigma are the major drivers. But this year, the focus is on everyone to take action to stop unfair barriers that make it harder to end AIDS. Our correspondent, Mary Alala Yusuf, has a report on efforts to end HIV and AIDS.
These days, by looking at them, one cannot distinguish people living with the human immunodeficiency virus, also known as HIV, from those without it. That's because of antiretroviral drugs, which reduce the viral load until it cannot be detected in the blood. Unfortunately, stigma has made many refrain from seeking treatment, encouraging infections to thrive, sometimes into full-blown AIDS.
Some of these times when women test positive, it's perceived as if they have brought it to the family. We still have a good number of cases being reported that they stigmatize these women when they know in the family that they are positive. So for this, people keep to themselves. They shy away from taking their medication. They avoid any situation that will make them. Stigma and discrimination for children, even those living with HIV in schools.
The Lagos State Coordinator of the Association of Women Living with HIV/AIDS in Nigeria, Ms. Sheikh Hadiri, has been living with the virus for over 20 years, and she'll tell you it has not been an easy ride.
Stigma at workplace was another thing, because I remember at the time I was cut off job. I was asked to stop, all because they know my status, and parents were withdrawing their children from school. It was so devastating.
The state coordinator, Network of People Living with HIV/AIDS in Nigeria, NEPWAN, Mr. Patrick Akpan, says there was a time he was at death's door, but antiretroviral medication gave him a new lease on life.
I developed AIDS, and life was so as if I would die. But eventually, when I got to the hospital and started taking ARV, I bounced back from AIDS to HIV. And a lot of people do not know that AIDS and HIV are different. HIV is a virus that is in the body, which can be controlled with the ARV drugs. But AIDS is a disease. I have a wife who is not positive. She's negative, and I told her before we got married, and she's still negative as at now. She's negative, and I have children who are all negative.
Science has shown that it's possible to be positive and not transmit to your children, or even not transmit to your partner, because we have discordant couple who live, one is positive, one is negative, and they do not transmit the virus.
This phenomenon is known as U equals U, where the viral load is so low due to judicious use of the antiretroviral drugs that it is undetectable and therefore untransmissible. Moreover, HIV infections are not casually contracted. It is not infectious nor contagious. Experts and champions living with the virus say if stigma is dealt with, the 2030 goal of getting 95% of those living with the virus tested, 95% of those on treatment, and 95% of the treated virally suppressed is within reach. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
We head to Kaduna State now, where the governor, Basani, has flagged off the distribution of drugs and medical equipment worth over 1 billion naira to 255 primary health centers as part of his administration's efforts to improve the well-being of the people of the state. Speaking at the event, Governor Sani said that his administration is working tirelessly to ensure that all primary health centers, secondary and tertiary hospitals are all upgraded to become the best in healthcare delivery in Nigeria.
The state government makes it clear that it does not treat healthcare with levity, but indeed prioritizes healthcare delivery with a vision to build healthy communities where every citizen, especially the poor and vulnerable, will have access to affordable and quality service. The governor is in Kachia local government area to flag off another round of distribution of free essential medicines and medical equipment worth over 1 billion naira to all the 255 primary healthcare centers across the 23 local government areas of Kaduna State. The government says this initiative, which is being driven by the Ministry of Health in collaboration with its local government counterpart, is a significant milestone in its effort to reposition healthcare sector, a stride that gave Kaduna the best performing state in the Northwest Zone in the recent primary healthcare challenge.
The provision of essential medicine and medical equipment will undoubtedly strengthen PHC system and services, promote universal health coverage, improve health outcomes, and further boost public confidence in health system, among other benefits.
On assumption of office, His Excellency directed the Ministry of under my leadership to save on government funds and purchase essential drugs and hospital equipment that will be distributed to all the primary healthcare centers in 23 local government areas of the state, free of charge.
The governor, accompanied by some dignitaries, flags off the distribution. He explains that the provision of the free essential drugs and medical equipment, as well as the remodeling of general hospitals, is a promise made and fulfilled by his administration.
These essential medicines and equipment were distributed to our primary healthcare centers in Kaduna State, will be given to children up to 6 years free of charge. Nobody will ask them for anything. All our pregnant women will get these medicines free in our primary healthcare center.
The governor also outlined some of the steps taken by his administration to transform the healthcare sector, including enhancing health infrastructure, improving service delivery, strengthening human resources, and ensuring availability of essential drugs.
Only last week, we announced that in the next 7 days, we are going to flag up the remodeling and upgrading of about 255 primary healthcare centers to level 2.
Before leaving Kachia, Governor Sani inspected the ongoing rehabilitation and remodeling work at the General Hospital, where construction is in progress.
And now to the arts. Contemporary artist and architect Somto Chukwuobi brings an interesting blend of both worlds in his solo exhibition at Thought Pyramid Arts Center right here in Lagos. While the show, titled Being Us, celebrates humanity, the artist's experience, and societal values. We see that on Art Review tonight.
The diverse stories, experiences, lifestyle, and just things that define us as Nigerians have been exhibited in this solo show by Somto Chukwuobi at the Thought Pyramid Arts Center, Lagos.
Try to focus more
on the stories that make us Nigerians. I try to focus more on paintings. I'm just trying to show Nigerians that we have a lot that beautifies us. There's a reason the world is always looking at Nigeria. Both our hard work, we're everywhere. Both our talent, both our comedy, both our music. There's so much about us that is outside politics. So, and I just wanted to remind Nigerians, who we are as a nation, especially during this period where it tends to be our hardest time. These are mediums that architectural people use in creating their buildings, design, and all those things. So we use this pen to achieve what is achieved, and that makes it very, very different from other artists.
In Being Us, this artist and architect has an array of bold monochrome mixed media images of individuals, mostly faceless or looking away, but within the piece holds stories that have defined them.
The exhibition is just aimed at showing people that it's still our home. It's not perfect. Politically, it's not perfect. It has never been perfect, but it's still home. So I try to focus more on the stories that make us Nigerians. I try to focus more on paintings. I'm just trying to show Nigerians that we have a lot that beautifies us. When you look at the work the artist is doing, you will see that it's quite unique because he uses an architectural tools in achieving what he is achieving in his work. And you can see the punctility in his work. So the truth is actually just telling us about what it takes to be a Nigerian. And then you also see some paper cutting in his work, which actually tell us a whole lot about who we are as a Nigerian.
The artist wants Nigerians to believe that a country can still be great again. Like a phoenix, she will rise up from the ashes.
In the world of sports, Nigeria's sole representative on the continent, Enyimba International, have suffered a second defeat in the Group D of the CAF Confederation Cup. The two-time African champions suffered a disappointing 3-0 loss to host Mozambique's Black Bulls, Maputo, and are now rooted bottom of the group with just points from 3 games, while Black Bulls have 4 points as a result of the win against the People's Elephant. Enyimba will next host the Mozambicans at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo on January the 5th. Next year. The league leaders in the Nigeria Premier Football League is again changing hands for the 5th straight week at the conclusion of Sunday's match day 17 games. 10-man Remo Stars were held to a 1-1 draw by hosts Ikorodu City at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena earlier this evening. Their closest rivals, Rivers United, beat Kwara United 2-1 to displace the Kenya-based team at the top. The Pride of Rivers are on 32 points, while Remo Stars are on 30 points from 17 games. In other games, Bendel Insurance forced Heartland to a 1-1 draw in Owerri. Bayelsa beat Aqua United 2-1. El Kanemi and Niger Tornadoes recorded impressive home wins. Well, let's head now to the Super Sunday clash, where Manchester United scored twice in the final 3 minutes to deepen English Premier League champions Manchester City's crisis with a 2-1 win at the Etihad. City now have just once in their last 11 games, a run that includes 8 defeats. Joško Vardiol's first half header had put Pep Guardiola's men in front, but then United hit back for just Ruben Amorim's second win in 5 league matches since taking charge last month. Reflecting on the turbulent year for the World Anti-Doping Agency WADA, marked by controversies over Chinese swimmers and Yannick Sinner, its president, Witold Banker, has now pushed back against unfair defamatory attacks. Last spring, the sports watchdog was severely criticized for clearing swimmers who tested positive to compete at the Tokyo Olympics, with the Montreal headquarter agency saying that they had accepted Chinese authorities' explanation that their 23 athletes had eaten contaminated food at a hotel. WADA's president, Banker, insists the case is now definitely closed, since an independent report found there was no bias towards China.
Definitely. I think that the Cotiese report closed the chapter. The working group, the recommendations closed the chapter, and I think now we have to move forward with other things. We are under the review of our rules. Code. The most important document, the World Anti-Doping Code. So we have to focus on consultation with the stakeholders. What has to be improved or changed in the system. The anti-doping is the most harmonized legal system in the world. Very unique because it's hard to imagine civil law, criminal law, which is harmonized for a few countries. We've managed to do it in anti-doping. So this harmonization sometimes brings the tensions because it's not easy to harmonize the rules for all countries. But we treat all stakeholders equally, no matter how big they are, how rich they are, how strong they are, or how small they are. That's the thing which our friends from the United States has to understand.
Russian authorities have confirmed that 2 of its oil tankers carrying 29 crew members on board have sunk in the Black Sea amid bad weather and are now leaking oil. The incident took place in the Kerch Strait, which separates Russia from occupied Crimea. Russian media says that at least 1 crew member is believed to have died, and Russian authorities are now investigating for criminal negligence. The rescue and cleanup operation is underway, involving tugboats, helicopters, and more than 50 personnel. The Israeli government has approved a plan to encourage the expansion of settlements in the occupied Golan Heights. According to the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, the move was necessary because a new front had opened on the Israeli's border with Syria after the fall of Assad regime to an Islamist-led rebel alliance. Mr. Netanyahu says that he wanted to double the population of Golan Heights, which Israel has seized during the 1967 Six-Day War and is now considered illegally occupied under the international law. And this is coming as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said earlier today that the United States is in contact with the rebels in control of Syria.
Top diplomats from the United States, Turkey, the European Union, and Arab states met in Jordan on Saturday for talks on Syria as regional and global powers scramble for influence over whatever government replaces ousted President Bashar al-Assad. The outgoing Biden administration in the United States has begun engaging with the victorious rebel group, the HTS, which led the assault that ended Assad's rule. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who was at the meeting in Jordan, spoke of the Washington's interaction with the group.
We've been in contact with HTS and with other parties. We have impressed upon everyone we've been in contact with the importance of helping find Austin Tice and bringing him home. And we've also shared the principles that I just laid out for our ongoing support, principles, again, that have now been adopted by countries throughout the region and well beyond.
EU foreign policy chief said the bloc is ready to do more for Syria.
Syria faces a hopeful but uncertain future, and that's why we all agreed on the principles that the new leadership of Syria should also follow. That is very important to all of us.
Back in Syria, religious leaders have been leading prayers and rallies where they have called for national unity under the country's new government. Even Syrian Christians pray about the country's uncertain future. On Sunday, a number of Syrian students toppled a statue of late Syrian President Hafez al-Assad in Damascus University, cheering and riding on top of it, indicating the image of the founding father of the dynasty is no longer respected. In the meantime, Hezbollah head Naim Kazim says the Lebanese armed group has lost its supply route through Syria. Israel, on the other hand, continues operating in the UN-monitored buffer zone between Syria and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz said on Sunday the threat to Israel from Syria remains despite the moderate tone of rebel leaders who ousted President Bashar al-Assad a week ago.
Three West African states ruled by military leaders have announced visa-free travel and residency rights for citizens in the 15-member regional bloc Ecowas ahead of the trio leaving that group. The leaders of the states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, said the visa and residency decision had been taken in the spirit of friendship and to strengthen countries' and centuries-old ties among African people. And the main news again. The Economic Community of West African States has approved the withdrawal of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso and member states from January the 29th, 2025. The decision followed a series of military takeovers in the three African countries, with each leading to suspensions from Ecowas. Also today, troops of 6th Brigade Nigerian Army have rescued 3 kidnapped victims in Euro local government area of Taraba State. And we also told you that the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has inaugurated a national task force tasked with tackling illegal oil bunkering and pipeline vandalism. And outside our shores, the 2 Russian oil tankers with 29 crew members on board has been heavily damaged in the Black Sea, causing an oil spill. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawadu. Have a wonderful week ahead. Good night.